Thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, Harry Wilmington, and this is the show, and that is the website, where you can go to learn how to attract women as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Now, before I get into today's show, I want to make a special announcement. For those of you that have been fans of my work for a long time now, you'll know that before I started doing the Introvert Dating Success Show, I had another show called Stop Losing Women, which was a more general show that was about giving advice to guys on dating, not just introverted guys, but just everyone at large. And so I started this show because I wanted to niche down and really focus on introverted men. But with that said, I've had a lot of requests lately from people who have wanted to know where they can find my Stop Losing Women podcast, because I did 435 shows, and I had a lot of people write me and say, like during the time the show was on, saying how it impacted their lives, how they were able to actually transform themselves into men that were able to get women, and how they're in happy relationships now, and that they just really, really liked the advice on that show. And some guy wrote me one time and said that he spent like thousands of dollars on therapy, and that my shows actually like helped him out. So there's been a request for that show, but I took it down off iTunes because I got this show. So with that being said, I've gathered together all my old shows, and starting probably, I want to say late next month in June, they will be available to be listened to. I'm going to put them up on a subscription service, so you can actually subscribe for a per month fee or for a one-time inclusive fee to be able to have access to all 400, I think it's like 435 shows. There were a few that I took down just because they were like advertisements for other programs I was coming out with. So it might be close to like 425, but it's a lot of shows. There's shows that I did with guests where I interviewed experts in the field, as well as other women that were actually in the process of dating and what their viewpoints were, but just a lot of good, solid advice. So that'll be coming out next month. I'll have more details about that. I'm still putting up all those shows. So that'll be coming out next month. I will keep you posted on that. But for those of you that have been requesting those shows and wondering where they went, they're not currently up, but they will be up for you to enjoy very, very soon. Okay? So with that said, in the meantime, you can enjoy the new content by going to introvertdatingsuccess.com. We got eBooks there. We got video classes on how to message women in the right way when you're trying to do online dating. You can sign up for one-on-one coaching, and you can also write me to answer questions on any one of these new shows that I am doing, okay? So with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's show. And this particular guy, he's going through an interesting situation, and it's one I've talked about on the show before. It's another instance of an introverted guy with a girl that's starting to be a little bit too clingy. So I actually covered that in a previous podcast. I'm not going to really talk too much about that. But what I do want to talk about today is this guy included a chat conversation that he had with this girl when she wanted to come over and see him while he was sick. And there's a lot of things that are in this, in terms of things that I think he's doing wrong, in terms of things that I think she's doing wrong, and ultimately how he chose to handle this, how he chose to speak to her, and what they're both projecting onto each other. I think it's really a lesson in why it's so important to be patient and to really work on how you speak to them and how you communicate with them, what you decide to put in text conversations, or even just when you verbally speak to them, because those things can last forever. And you could be 5 years down the road and she's still going to feel some kind of way about how you interacted with her early on. But there's also ways in which, as an introvert, obviously you don't want a girl that's under you 24/7, and there's ways to get that point across that are going to be a lot better than this guy, which we'll get into. So I'll probably stop and start at certain points here and there to really just kind of delve into either what he's doing or what she's doing and how it can be done better. So let's go ahead and get into that. And it goes a little something like this. So he says, "So my girlfriend is clingy. She wants to see me all the time." Okay, let me stop there for a minute, okay? This is the thing that'll legit happen anytime you date a girl that has high interest. And for those of you that are kind of used to dating women that are just kind of flaky a little bit, or, you hit them up sometimes and they respond back right away, and then other times you hit them up and they take like hours or sometimes days to get back to you. This is an example of something that a girl that really, really likes you will do, is that they will want to see you all the time. And at least in their head, they'll never get tired of you. But here's the thing, okay? A lot of women think that. A lot of women think that they'll be perfectly fine if they see you all the time. More often than not, they will not be, because their high interest is blinding them from the fact that if they were to see you every single day, inevitably she'll get tired of you. So, and I know this is a hard thing, especially for you guys that are in like long-term relationships, or you're in relationships where you're married to the person. You're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, if I'm married to them or living with them or whatever, how do I not see them every day? And there's a different psychology behind that, but the short version is that you still find times throughout the course of your relationship to get to yourself, whether it's you're working on a project, if you're going to a job, if you're having to go out of town for some reason, and these give you excuses to sporadically not be next to the person all the time. And then even when you're married, like in a day-to-day work life, it's like you work most of the time prior to like the stuff that's happening now, but typically people go to work and they spend like 10 or 12 hours apart, to where they see each other in the morning and at night. And usually that's like the total like 5 or 6 hours, and then you go to sleep. So it's a different feeling of that. But even with that, you have all this time away from the person during the day to where you actually legit want to see them when you get home. But then when you get home, if you think about it, like when you go on dates are supposed to be like maybe 2 to 3 hours tops, 4 if you've been dating for a while. So if you get home at like 6 and she gets home at 6 o'clock, from 6 to 10, that's your 4 hours. And then most older people that I know go to sleep around 10:30. My brother goes to sleep at 9:30. My mom goes to sleep at like 8 o'clock, or she's 65 at this point. So, but yeah, so if you think about the actual amount of hours you spend with a person on your day to day, then that's a lot different. But when you're first starting out, a girl will want to legit be around you like 24/7, and you cannot let that happen. Okay, but this is a positive sign. And when this kind of thing happens, it's your job as the introverted guy in the situation to figure out how to monitor the time best, because they're not going to be very, very good at being able to say, well, I'll see you Tuesday, but and then I'll go away from you for like 3 days and then see you again. So that's something that you got to manage. You got to be the one to be like, if you see her on a Tuesday, maybe don't hit her up on Wednesday, and maybe hit her up Thursday to hang out Friday. And while you're not hitting them up, they'll probably hit you up, and that's fine. You message them back, and then they message you back, and then you message them back a couple times, and you kind of say, hey, babe, I got stuff to do, but I'll talk to you tomorrow because I want to plan something for us to do this weekend. But you don't just stay up under it, because, again, you have to be responsible for monitoring the time. And I cannot stress this enough, because there have been many times in my past where I let the woman dictate when we spent time together and how often, and it ended up being too much in the beginning. And then all of a sudden she's bored and wants to leave. And I'm just like, well, but you were the one that wanted to see me. And I'm like, oh, I have to control that. And that builds into you being a leader and women wanting men to lead. So you have to get used to that early on, first by knowing how to lead your time management with this other person. Anyway, continuing on, I'm into her, but we've only been dating 3 months and it's overwhelming. We already both said the L word, and then in parentheses he says, kind of regretting it, didn't know this would happen. So yeah, this is the thing where guys feel like if a woman says the L word, I don't know who said it here first, but most likely what typically happens is the woman will usually say it, and then the guy, even if he's not ready to say it, he'll parrot it back, because God forbid he doesn't say it and he hurts her feelings, or he'll say it early on because he thinks that's what he needs to say and that she wants to hear in order for her to continue her high interest. And at least in my experience, neither of those things are true. You can legit have a woman say to you, hey, babe, I love you. And you could say, oh, that's so nice. Or, oh, I think the world of you too, babe, without having to specifically say that. Now, rarely has a woman come back to me and say, well, you didn't say it, but I said it. That's something that TV does because it makes for a good dramatic moment in TV. But more often than not, women will usually be like, oh, like in their heads they'll be like, okay, he didn't say it. But they won't really verbally out loud say, well, do you love me back? Well, did you say, like, because they kind of know that it can take us longer, but also that in order for us to say that, they know that they have to earn that by continuing to do the right things. So if she says it and you don't say it back, now she's thinking, okay, it might take a little more time. What do I now need to do to make sure that I'm able to solidify those love feelings? And that actually makes her be the one to work hard for you instead of you trying to do everything you can to make this work. Like, let her take part in helping this thing work. Okay? Continue on. So here we go. Here's an excerpt from our conversation. So I don't know if this was a text conversation or a phone conversation, but either way, it'll stay in a woman's memory whether you type it out or say it. So I'm going to go through this, and then we'll talk about what he said, what was said, and then how he could better have done this. So he says to her, "Listen, I'm sorry, but you're starting to act a little clingy. I mean, you're upset because I want to stay in tonight and rest." And then in parentheses, he says, "I'm sick." So first things first, I don't believe that any guy should be dating somebody who is going to put their own self-interest and feelings over the health or whatever the other person needs. So in this case, if the guy is in fact sick and she's trying to force her way to go over there, then you really have to kind of question if this person is in this for the betterment of the relationship or just to get whatever emotions out of it that she needs. And so this is a case where she's trying to force herself to go see this guy despite him being sick, then that's already a red flag, okay? But beyond that, I also believe that when you're trying to get somebody to correct the behavior, the worst thing you could do is throw in words or phrases that are either meant to insult them or make them feel like they're less than. So him saying you're starting to act a little clingy, that may be the case, and that may be the term in your head that, oh, this girl's getting a little too close, she's trying to be around all the time, therefore we call that clingy. But to put that in a text or say that to her, you got to ask yourself, is that a phrase that is going to make her want to change her approach? And more likely what's going to happen is it's going to put her on the defensive, because a woman being called clingy is, I mean, how many girls have been called clingy before simply because they want to get close to their guy? Now, that's not saying that she's not being clingy, but it's saying that calling that out isn't going to benefit the situation. And there's other ways you can go about saying, hey, babe, sometimes I need my time to myself, without having to say, well, you're being like this, because ultimately you're trying to help her understand the things that you need. So this could have been expressed more as that, hey, I need this versus you're being this. All right. Let's see. Continuing on. So then she says, I haven't seen you this whole week. We hung out once with friends at the beach, and then we had dinner. That's it. You might not care, but I actually like spending time with you. I'm probably not going to see you all of this week either, but whatever, I'll just leave you alone so you can rest. So obviously there's a lot of feeling in this. And if I were coaching her, I would express to her things like, for example, her saying, you might not care, but I actually like spending. A lot of women do this thing where they'll put onto you something that they think that you're really thinking, and why the way that they're doing stuff is better and more caring for the relationship. So when she says, you might not care, but I actually like spending time with you, what she's saying is, you don't seem to like spending time with me, but I like spending time with you, therefore I must love you more. And so I would chastise her for this. But in this case, I'm going to actually use this as a lesson for you, because guys also do the same thing where they say, well, I do this thing, and, you just seem like you're out to hurt me, or blah, blah, blah. And all this woman's doing in this situation is projecting. And anytime that you have anxiety or self-doubt about something, you have to really be careful that you're not going to then project that onto the other person, because based on the guy writing this note, he clearly does care. But she's saying, you might not care, because what she's really trying to say is, I feel right now as if you don't care. My thought is that based on your actions, you don't seem to care about me. So she's projecting that out there, but that's clearly not the case, because again, he wrote this letter. So when you're in arguments with people, again, you really need to be mindful of, if the thing you're saying about the other person, you don't know for sure that they're actually thinking and feeling that thing. So the only thing that you're doing in that case is projecting. And when you start making assumptions and projecting on these things, this is actually what can really cause your argument to hit a detriment where you can't come back from it, because the other person's going to want to be able to say their piece. So she would have been better saying something like, hey, so, I'm feeling like I haven't seen you a lot. Is there something wrong? Asking it as a question versus just putting out there, well, I just know you don't care. That's not the case at all, but she didn't ask. She just made an assumption and put it on him, so now he has to defend himself. But anyway, that said, I will say this, and this is especially for introverts out there, is that she's expressing that they hung out once and then they had dinner. Now, again, him being sick is a whole different little angle to this that makes the rest of her argument not effective, because let's say they saw each other on a Sunday and then he got sick Monday and now it's Thursday, and he's still feeling sick. Yeah, she hadn't seen him all week. He's been sick all week, and he didn't want to be around her when he was sick. But assuming that let's say he wasn't sick, okay? I know it can be very, very easy as an introvert to be like, well, I saw you Monday. We hung out for like 4 hours. Why are you tripping? Like, you could probably go a whole week without seeing her and be fine. And this is where the compromise comes in for us, because we know that we could see somebody once, maybe twice that whole week and be good. And most women that highly like you are going to want to see you a minimum of 3 times a week. That's typically how it pans out. And that's if you're controlling the timing. But you have to be mindful that there's going to be a compromise. There's going to be times where you want to have your alone time, and she might need somebody shoulder to cry on. Or she might have one of those days where she just really wants to just put some good loving on you at a time when you're trying to work or do whatever. And that's when your part of the compromise comes in, where it's like, look, the compromise is basically this. You're going to want your alone time at times, and she's going to want to see you an overextended amount of times. So there's a happy medium there where you're able to get the alone time you need, but also there's going to be times where you might have to shorten that alone time a little bit to be able to, be around her at the time that she needs it. And if it's something that you truly care about, that is a sacrifice that you will be willing to make at those times. Not all the time, but if you're, as a single guy, used to, being alone 6 out of 7 days of the week, and you spend one day to go see your friends or whatever, with a girlfriend, you might have to cut that down from 6 days to 4 days. And it's not even the whole day. It's like you might work part of the day, then you might be alone part of the day, but then you have the part of the day that you're going to see the girl that you're dating because you like her and you want to get some, and she likes you and she wants to get some and wants to spend time with you. And that's perfectly fine. So don't have it be where it's like you see her on a Sunday and you're like, I'll just catch her up on Friday. You're probably going to have to see her like Sunday, maybe Wednesday, and then Thursday. And that could be your 3 days. But like, know how to spread that out so she still feels like you want to see her while you're still able to get your alone time. That's what this whole show's about in the first place. So then he answers back. He says, thank you. Was that so hard? Let me not put any inflection in the voice. I'll just read it. Okay. Thank you. Was that so hard? When a guy asks for time alone, whether it's to rest, me time, bro time, you shouldn't beg and get angry. It's pushing me away more than you realize. So this is a really hard thing to do, where it's like you want to let the girl know how her actions are causing you to feel and what they're making you want to do. Is that the best idea to say to a girl, when you do these things, you're pushing me away? It's debatable. I typically tend to be the guy that's more like, here's the thing. If it's pushing you away, that's a legitimate thing. But I also find part of the problem is that guys don't know how to set boundaries. And so they allow things to happen that builds up to this point. So for example, the fact that she's all of a sudden having issue with this now probably means that early on, they were probably seeing each other regularly, like day to day. And that's an issue that a lot of introverts have, where they don't want to hurt the girl's feelings. So they just say, well, I'll just, see her all the time because that way I don't have to start a fight and I know she likes me. And so you get from, you do that in month 1, month 2, now you're at month 3, and all of a sudden you're sick, but you're saying, oh, I don't want to see you. And she's like, well, what's going on? We've been seeing each other like nonstop for 3 months straight. And all of a sudden you don't want to have me around. So this is why it's important as an introvert to set up these parameters early on, so it becomes a thing that is known to her, and it's not out of habit for you to want your alone time, to want to not have her around, to want to have your own space. Because now it's at a point where it's like, if it's a habit for her to see him regularly, then she's not going to understand how it's pushing him away if they've been doing it like this the whole time. But the other stuff he says in here where it's like, the snarky answers, like, again, when you're talking to somebody, keep in mind, an argument is ultimately just a misunderstanding. And it's a misunderstanding with somebody that you ideally care about. So the goal is not to try to like insult them, make them feel bad, or try to one-up them. The goal is to get to a common ground where you guys both understand where you're coming from, and then decide if there can be a compromise. So when she said the part about we only hung out once, blah, 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 and then she said, but whatever, I'll just leave you alone so you can rest. He could have said the thank you part, like, appreciate it, babe. I know this is hard. I know this is a hard thing because I'm usually good when I'm sick, but this time I'm just really, really sick and bad. But you know what? As soon as I get better, I'll hit you up and take you out. That would have literally been the end of the conversation. But us guys, we got to just go in there. We got to prove our point. We got to say our extra things to make things feel, understand, and blah, blah, blah. Was him saying, was that so hard? Geez, that was easy, wasn't it? Like, do you think that's going to make her want to continue to listen to him? Do you think that's going to make her feel any better about the situation? Is it resulting in a resolution where she feels good, yet lets him have his alone time in peace? No, it just sets up for more of an argument. And I think guys, because we're built to fight. Like if somebody attacks us, our first motive or operandi is to attack and destroy. And the problem is that women are communal in their conversation. They're trying to talk to get an understanding, to get a basis of compromise and stuff like that. So when we come in guns a-blazing in an argument, is it any wonder why women end up being mad at you or being even more upset or not wanting to talk to you? You can't fight with a woman the same way you'd fight with a guy. So you got to learn different tactics. So like I said, this guy could have just said, thank you. I appreciate it, babe. I know this is hard, but hey, I really want to see you. And you know what? I'll make it up to you next week when I'm better. And instead he says, you shouldn't beg and get angry. It's pushed me away more than you realize. And also, I have a saying I like to tell guys, which is like, you never want to should a person to death. And when you tell somebody you should do this, you shouldn't do that, you are shoulding them to death. And think about it as a guy. Do you like people telling you what you should do? Or would you prefer them to say, hey, here's a suggestion, why not consider doing this thing? So for him to say you shouldn't beg and get angry, he's telling her what to do, he's telling her what she shouldn't do, and he's basically attacking the way that she's feeling about a situation and how she's handling it. Now, is she handling this in the best way? No. But again, you gotta pick your words carefully, and you have to know how to say things in a way that's not going to antagonize the situation further. If an argument comes up, the goal as the guy should not be to antagonize further, it should be to come to a resolution. So any words or sentences that you're saying that are going to antagonize, and you've been with somebody long enough, you know what their buttons are and what to say and what's going to piss them off. Why are you trying to piss off somebody you care about? Like, that should not be a thing. You should be trying to get to some place where they still care about you, but are now giving you the things that you need to make this a successful relationship. Continuing on. She says, if you love someone, something like that shouldn't push you away. But K, whatever, bye. So one, it shouldn't have gotten to this point. His last conversation he had with her should have left her on a high where it's like, okay, well, I don't like it, but I guess I'll see you whenever, okay? And then they can have a conversation later about, hey, babe, so just so you know, when we're, having a discussion, some of the things that you said could have been said a little bit better, and I would have taken them better. And there's the thing, too. I've learned that, there have been times where I've dated women where when I'm having a discussion with them, they'll come out of pocket with something that I'm like, this is not cool. And I will be able to sit them down and say, hey, so just so you, later after the thing's over at a good moment, say, hey, just so you know, so like we were having this conversation the other day, just I typically tend to accept things better when I hear them like this, or when they're said in this way. And when you said it this way, my initial reaction was to do this, but I didn't, but this is why I would have felt this way. Is there a better way to go about this in the future? Because women, if you give them the parameters for how to talk to you and how to argue with you, then if they want to keep you around, they know that there's a limit that you have before you're just out. And if they don't want you out, then they're going to have to follow the protocol you're setting forth for a conversation to happen. And women typically do better with that, honestly, because it shows that you're being a leader. It shows that you're caring enough about the relationship to where it's like, hey, because I care about you, I don't want you to do something that's going to make me go away. So here's how we can handle that. And they surprisingly take that a lot better than, guys that just go off the handle and, all of a sudden they're like, oh, this guy wasn't as cool and calm as I thought he was, and he clearly can't lead his emotions. Why do I want him to lead me? So just based on experience. So yeah, if you love someone, something like that shouldn't push you away, but okay, whatever, bye. So there are going to be times when you're having a discussion with a woman or you're having a text conversation. And by the way, I don't recommend doing arguments on text because those things last forever and they will pull that shit up when they read it. But anyway, where you're talking to a woman, she's like, well, I don't like this thing, but if that's how it is, and that's fine. Okay, bye. Now, some gurus would say this is the point where you should try to change her mind and say something that's going to make her feel better. Or in this guy's case, his next thing is he says, don't take this rudely. I'm just letting you know. And I'll read the rest of that in a minute. But I have found there are times when that happens, you need to just do nothing. Like, legit don't respond. If it's a phone conversation, they say that, okay, whatever, bye. You just say, all right, well, I'll talk to you later, and you hang up. Or if it's a text conversation, you just don't respond back. And why is that? Because there is something powerful in somebody responding back to you in a way that's supposed to antagonize you or get an emotion out of you, and it doesn't. Because then it goes from like, yeah, I showed him to like, wait, he didn't respond back. Like, what is that about? Did I overreact? Is this the thing that's going to end the relationship? Oh my God, I now need to go back and rethink about things that I said and how I acted, and I might need to apologize to this guy. And again, I've had times where this has happened where I just legit don't respond. And then like either a few hours later or the next day, hey babe, so I just wanted to say that, I realized that I was overreacting yesterday. I was just really, really emotional because I really wanted to whatever. So in this girl's case, I just really wanted to see you. And I just, I recognize that you're sick and I'm sorry for overreacting. And sometimes women need time to sit with themselves and go through those various emotions before she realizes, oh crap, my emotions got the best of me. I shouldn't have said this to this guy. But if you don't allow them that time and come back with something that's even more of a fighting response, then it's not going to allow her to get to a place where she can forgive herself for being so antagonistic at the time and really hearing what you were saying or the situation that you were in. So you just end it there. She says, okay, but Kay, whatever, bye. If he just left it alone and said, whatever, I'm gonna go play some video games, I'm gonna go take some medicine and lie on the couch, then the next day, he would have probably heard from her saying, I'm sorry. But he didn't take that route. So let's see what he did instead. So he says to her, don't take this rudely. I'm just letting you know. I, period, hate, period, clingy, period. Love is irrelevant here. Pause. Love is never irrelevant for a woman. So you can never say, as guys, we're great at compartmentalizing, okay, this is an emotion, and this is an action, and so these two things don't ever have to meet. So just because I'm sick and don't want to see you doesn't mean I don't love you. But in this case, love is in fact irrelevant. And a woman is not going to understand that because in women's minds, emotions and actions are tied together. You do an action based on an emotion you have or vice versa. So that's not one of those things that's going to help your situation. Again, are these phrases things that are going to make her want to do the thing you're asking for or not? In this case, this guy is really getting a lot of knots right now. But continuing on, he says, who likes someone begging, in caps, by the way. And by the way, arguments on text, A, don't do them, but B, if you are doing them, never use full caps for your words because that, to a person psychologically, makes it look like you're yelling at them. And women don't want to be yelled at in a conversation, at least in one where you're trying to get them to do something other than what they're currently doing. Anyway, he says, who likes someone begging to hang out when they clearly stated they want alone time? Who likes someone getting upset when they don't get their way over hanging out? Nobody. Again, and I can't stress this enough, all this is true and none of that needs to be said because now he's just trying to prove a point and try to wedge something in her brain, and it's in the process making him lose his composure. And it's not making him look like a guy that's like laid back and calm and is ultimately indifferent to the outcome. And that's the thing too. It's like part of this is being able to show your indifference, because if you show you're indifferent, like you're going to get what you need to get regardless of, what it is she's trying to pull or whatever. And so the more that you try to argue back, the more words you try to say, the more it seems like you actually care about trying to make her feel better or trying to appease her in some way. And in some situations, like in this guy's case, he's sick. There's going to be no appeasing her. If he doesn't want her to come over, the argument's over. So after K bye, that should have been it, because anything else he says now is just like, she's probably thinking, how is he having this conversation with me if he's sick? And also it's like, it's not getting to the emotional core of what she's really asking for, which is, hey, I like my guy. I want to spend time with him, but I feel like he's pushing away. So you don't go with the full front tactic of like, this is the thing, I'm going to explain this to you, and then nobody likes this stuff about people that do this and this and that, because none of that's going to make her feel like you care about her. So instead, focus on the stuff that makes her think you care about her. Hey, babe, like I said, I'm not feeling good. I'll see you. I'll hit you up as soon as I feel better. You're the first person I want to call when I feel better, but I don't want to get you sick. But all this extra stuff now is just it's not needed. And I think so many guys get overly wordy when they're trying to explain to a woman why it is that they feel the way they feel. And as I said in previous videos, you ain't got to explain all that. Like, the best thing you could probably do for your dating life, honestly, is not feel like you have to fully express every single decision that you're making and why you're making it. It's just not. You save a lot of words, a lot of time. And think back to like those movies where it's like, women fall for the smooth, silent guy, the one that's kind of like doesn't say a whole lot of words. And most of the best relationships that I've seen in my life, usually the wife's like, yeah, he's usually pretty quiet. He stays to himself. He's just kind of like, he says things here and there, but he's not really a talkative guy. And you know why he's not a very talkative guy? Because he learned early on that the more you talk, the better chance you have at saying the wrong thing. And you can't say the wrong thing if you're not saying a whole lot of words. Continuing on. So then she says, okay, then we're not hanging out tomorrow, obviously. Parentheses, he says that I guess they had plans of some kind, but again, he's sick. So, okay, then we're not hanging out tomorrow, obviously. You've had 2 days by yourself. Might as well have 3. So this is the part where I say, okay, this is the kind of woman you got to look out for. Is she now looking after his best interest or her own? Right now, she's wanting to see him so bad that she's blinded by the fact that he's not saying don't come over because he doesn't care about her. He's legit sick. And this is a red flag that I'd be looking at and being like, oh, that needs to be a conversation that they need to have about, hey, this is not cool. Like at times when I'm legit sick or times where I can't see you, then you getting this mad, this is a thing that is not going to bode well for the future of this thing. So how can we remedy that? Versus saying, you got mad at me for being sick and blah, blah, blah. And now I don't want to, and this is like, if you're not trying to break up with the girl legit, then you don't want to be using words like we could break up if you don't change yourself in your conversation. Like, don't use that phrasing specifically. So then he says, if you want to be immature about this, I'm just going to turn off my phone. I'll talk to you tomorrow. No, do not respond like that. You don't call a girl out of her name. So none of this, you're being immature, you're being stupid, you're being dumb. Do people like being insulted like that? Do you like being insulted like that? Do you like a woman comes to you and says, you're just being a big baby? Does that make you want to hear what they have to say? Does that make you want to change your mind? So you got to give her the same courtesy. You ain't got to call her names. You ain't got to all do this extra stuff like turn off your phone or whatever. You just not answer your phone. You ain't got to tell her specifically like, oh, I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm not going to talk to you and I'll talk to you tomorrow, because none of that sounds good. It just sounds horrible. So then he says, and that's it. So what can I do? I thought I expressed myself in a clear, respectful way. You did not. I know I was coming off as short and rude. You were. But she's basically been asking all day to hang out. She even used the line, you used to hang out with me when you were sick, but Kay, whatever. And again, this is something that you set up early on. And so now it's an expectation because you got sick that one time and she wanted to hang out. And rather than say, ooh, baby, I'm sick, you decided, oh, I don't want to hurt her feelings, so I'm going to like let her come over even though I'm like halfway dying and don't really feel like it. So what did that set up? That set up in her mind a thing that said, oh, he's okay with me coming over when he's sick. So retroactively, you should have not done that. But now that you're in the situation, then you just got to say, hey, there's levels to the sickness. So when I invited you over the first time and I was sick, I was like a light cold. I knew I could still kind of function, but now I'm on the sofa dying. So no, you can't come over. I can barely text this to you right now, but I'm texting you because I care about you. So when I feel even more better, I'll be sure to text you to invite you out. So that's really all the commentary I have on this thing. It's just ultimately, guy, like, again, women that are clingy, if they highly like you, that's going to be a problem you got to face. But it's your job as the guy to handle that stuff. But more importantly, be mindful of what you're saying and doing when you're in an argument with a woman. Because even though they might come at you with some harsh stuff, and they will, because women are going to do that partially because they're testing you, but partially because they're just ultimately, when their emotions hit, they can't keep them in control all the time. And sometimes they might say the wrong thing or slip up and say like a phrase they didn't mean to say. And, you know, guys do it too, but we're the ones that are looked to lead the relationship. And part of that means being able to handle our own emotions, and we're analytical. So especially for an introvert, you're hella analytical. So take the time during a fight to stop, pause. If it's over text, which I don't recommend, but if it is, you have time to sit there and think about what's the best thing I could say. And honestly, if you're in a text conversation and it starts turning to an argument, I'm in the habit of, I don't like the idea of any kind of negative history of being in a text stream. So if she says something like, if she had got to the point where she says, she says, you might not care, but I actually like spending time with you. This is when I pick up the phone. Because I don't want the next thing that I say to be in a text stream that's going to be have a history to it. So I'll hit her up. Hey, I just got your text about not spending time with you and that I don't care. Babe, you know I care. You know, and also typically voice conversations, they're able to hear your inflection. It's a lot harder to say harsh things for a woman in that tone with you when it's like a voice conversation. So you'll probably win more arguments if you just pick up the phone. And then when you pick up the phone, you make sure that you're saying things that are going to be expressing what you need, expressing your care for her, and not throwing jabs and insults at her that she's going to have in her head for years later to use back on you, okay? As a guy, you really need to learn how to control what you're saying, because that's ultimately going to be the thing that's going to determine the health of your relationship. Because there are people that are married 30, 40 years, but the woman is not happy. because the husband's always been saying mean stuff to her, but she stays there because she can't support herself or the kids or whatever. But that's not a happy situation. You want to be in a happy situation. And that starts with you, because you're the guy, you're the leader, and you need to be the one that's controlling and knowing what to say and how to say it. Now, does that mean you don't ever express yourself in terms of what your needs are? No, but it means when you do it in a way that still uplifts that other person and just lets them know, hey, even though I care about you, these are some things that I need changed in order to make this be more effective for the both of us. So anyway, that's all I got for today's show. For more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can go to YouTube and subscribe. You can go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you want to get these shows a week before they drop, I highly recommend you support this show by going on patreon.com/introvertdatingsuccess and becoming a patron, where you'll have access to these shows a week before they come out. Also, if you are looking for one-on-one phone coaching, you can go to the website and click on the coaching tab. If you want a question answered on this show, you can click on the contact tab. And we have some eBooks there, as well as a free video training that will teach you the kinds of messages to send to women online that will get them attracted to you. And like I said earlier in the show, as for the Stop Losing Women podcasts, they will be coming out in later June. I will do more of an announcement on that as I put up more of the shows, because it's going to be a bit of a process to put them all up. They're going to be completely unedited and as they originally were. But I think for those of you that missed those shows, and for those of you that are listening to this show and really want some deep dive information on how to get women, whether it's like dating them, whether it's talking to them, whether it's long-term relationship stuff, or you just want to hear from other experts besides myself on this topic, you'll have over 430 shows to go through to get the absolute best information that I have to offer on the subject, and it'll change your life. So that'll be good too. So that's all I got for today. I'm HarryWilmington, and thank you for tuning in. I will catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.